My name is Amina Hart, and at 32, I've built a modest yet thriving vintage clothing boutique called Reclaimed Threads in historic Savannah, Georgia. The townhouse itself is almost a century old. Its salmon-pink brick facade, fading to rose in the afternoon sun, wrought iron balconies draped in Spanish moss, and windows tall enough to let in every golden morning ray. Inside, I arranged cherrywood display racks in gentle curves, each bearing carefully selected wardrobe treasures. A 1940s fur trim coat, hand-embroidered silk kimonos, mid-century cocktail dresses that still whispered sepia-tone elegance. This shop has been my lifeline ever since I lost my parents at 14. I poured every hope I had into restoring the building, into finding beauty in forgotten pieces of fabric, and into hoping that, through these garments, I might stitch together a new sense of family and belonging. Izzy and I grew up 2 doors apart, in the same ivy-clad row house. In the narrow alley between our homes, we built a makeshift swing from a repurposed tire. We chased cicadas and the magnolias, our bare feet slapping the warm brick path. She always had the chutzpah to leap first. I followed without hesitation. When I found a list of my parents' favorite jazz records hidden behind a loose board, she promised to help me track them down. We shared everything. Sleepovers under a patchwork quilt, the last piece of cherry candy from the corner store, our whispered fears about high school and heartbreak. Even as we drifted into young adulthood, I leaned on her. At 18, when I inherited the old Victorian, it was Izzy who spent sweltering July days hauling moldy lumber from a deconstructed barn. She crawled through attics stained with pigeon droppings, hands raw from prying loose floorboards that later became my shop's counters. Trouble began as subtle as a hairline fracture. At first, it was little things. A stray receipt for a specialty coffee machine I didn't order, her constant excuses about supplier problems. Then I noticed the rose gold cufflinks I'd sold at auction. One week, were back on the shelf under a different tag. Small sums bled out of our account. $200 withdrawals here, $500 transfers there, until the hole grew wide enough to drown in. She would chat on her phone behind closed doors, her silences too orchestrated, her laughter too forced. Every time I pressed her, she shrugged it off with a joke or a sweet reassurance that she was just trying to help the business grow. But my reflex became to double-check every invoice, every ledger entry. I started waking in a panic, convinced I'd missed a crucial figure, haunted by the idea of betrayal lurking behind the shop's lace curtains. We had history. When my knees bruised from crawling under display racks, it was Izzy who massaged the soreness away with eucalyptus oil. When I struggled to source 1970s Levi's in good condition, she spent weekends scouring flea markets from Charleston to Jacksonville. When a patron accused me of misrepresenting an item's age, Izzy stayed late, patiently emailing Providence documents, calming tempers with her soft southern drawl. On my first Valentine's Day alone, she baked heart-shaped sugar cookies and left them on a doily by the register. She stood by me in every triumph. Gallery features, glowing blog reviews. The day I hit my first $$10,000 monthly sales. She was a sister I never had. I believed no one could or would hurt me more than I could bear. I returned to the shop early, excited to surprise Izzy with 2 iced lattes from our favorite cafe. The bell above the door tinkled mockingly as I stepped in, holding the cold drinks. The polished oak floor reflected my own stunned face. Behind the counter, Izzy's laptop lay open, its screen illuminating a spreadsheet of our joint account. My heart seized when I saw lines of withdrawals, numbers that didn't compute with any supplier or payroll. In the margins of the document, a column titled Heart Designs, repeated like an echo, each cell a dagger $3, 200, $6, 800, $12, 500. The cursor hovered on a scheduled transfer for $15, 000 set to execute at midnight. I press a trembling finger to the trackpad, scrolls revealing months of clandestine removals. Izzy, I said, voice barely more than a rasp. She appeared at my elbow, hands tucked into her jeans pockets, expression flat. The early morning light outlined her silhouette, and I for a moment saw the girl who once held my hand through thunderstorm fears. I can explain, she said, voice low but steady. I held up the screen. Her eyes flickered. in calm paragraphs. She told me she'd been pulling funds to seed her own label, Isabella Hart Designs, imagining a day I would step down and hand the boutique to her. She called it an investment, an advance, though she'd never once suggested such a plan. I felt the floor drop away, my vision clouded with disbelief. Family looks out for family, she repeated. In that instant, the words lost all warmth. My world collapsed inward, and with a final apology whispered beneath my breath, I turned and walked out into humid air, leaving her amidst the treasures we'd once built together. The days that followed felt unreal. I drove straight to the bank, hands shaking on the steering wheel as I froze all accounts. Back at home, I found a half-packed suitcase in our shared apartment, Izzy's favorite blouse hanging out of it like a white flag. I spent sleepless nights drafting an attorney's letter, accusing her of breach of fiduciary duty and embezzlement. I hired an independent auditor who combed through 3 years of records and uncovered another $$27,000 in misappropriated funds. Plane tickets to New York, an Airbnb deposit for a Manhattan apartment, gourmet dinners charged under the business name. Each deceit stung sharper than the last. I pressed criminal charges and civil claims, knowing that even if I recovered the money, I'd lost something far more precious. In rebuilding, I discovered resilience I didn't know I had. My best friend Marcus, a soft-spoken artist whose studio was 2 blocks down, brought over paint rollers and late-night snacks. Neighbors left casseroles on my porch. Volunteers scrubbed the display cases, and former customers scrolled through my help-wanted post to join the effort. For 2 weeks, I closed the shop at dusk and slept little, living on peanut butter toast and black coffee brewed in a borrowed French press. In the quiet darkness before dawn, I'd stare at my reflection in the shop's windows, wondering if I'd ever feel safe again. But as I tightened the safe behind the counter, as I set up double signature requirements for every purchase, I felt a flicker of control return. Step by step, I reclaimed not just my money, but my peace of mind. Trust but verify. I used to believe trust was sacred and beyond question. Now, I share financial oversight with a professional partner, someone who has no ties to my childhood memories or my heart's vulnerabilities. Every quarter, I sit down with our accountant and review every line item. I cross-check invoices, scrutinize withdrawals, and track deposits. Some might label me overly cautious, but in business and in life, I've learned that boundaries and verification are the scaffolding upon which both profit and peace are built. Boundaries aren't weaknesses. Setting clear lines around my time and resources was bitter medicine, but necessary. I no longer mix personal and professional finances. I devoted an afternoon to rewriting our operating agreement, requiring 2 of 3 signatures for expenditures over $500. I installed a small digital ledger that emails me every transaction in real time. I took a weekend accounting workshop to understand the language of numbers that once felt like a foreign dialect. These measures have never failed me. Instead, they've given me the confidence to expand, adding an online store, hosting styling workshops, and partnering with a local fair trade collective to sell artisan textile goods. Despite what others say, forgiveness is not mandatory. I've revisited memories of childhood laughter under oak trees, and a part of me aches for the cousin I thought I knew. But I can't unring the bell of betrayal. I've written and rewritten a letter to Izzy, offering conditional forgiveness if she repays what she owes. Yet I never send it. Instead, I place that letter in a drawer, a tangible symbol that some bridges, once burned, can only be memorialized, not rebuilt. Today, Reclaimed Threads thrives more than ever. Between in-store sales and a bustling online following, revenue has doubled since the betrayal. I've hired a team of 3, a freelance photographer, a part-time inventory manager, and a marketing assistant, none of whom are related to me. Sometimes I walk past the oak-shaded spot where Izzy and I once whispered dreams. I pause, recognize the echo of those carefree afternoons, and allow myself a fleeting pang of nostalgia. Then I step forward, knowing that while the past shaped me, it no longer controls me. The strongest ties I now hold are those I forged with diligence, honesty, and the unshakable knowledge that my own resilience will always outlast betrayal's darkest hour.